It's time once again for another episode of the Buckhead Business Show. Being brought to you by the Buckhead Business Association. Broadcasting live from the Pro Business Channel studios in Atlanta. And now, here's your host for today's episode.
All right, good day. It is a beautiful Tuesday here in Buckhead. We're at the Buckhead Business Radio Show, and it's the Pro Business Channel hosting this process today. The BBA helps sponsor this event each week. It's a pro business project, so, there are no gotchas. We got two great guests this morning, Lloyd Lofton, and here it is fourth quarter, and we're in 7-digit sales. I like that.
Nice.
And then we've got Mr. Nickerson, Matthew Nickerson here is going to share with Lewis a little bit about why you need to keep your IT on top of the box. So what we do is we'll ask some good little questions here. We'll have a little conversational time together. We'll start out with Lloyd. Lloyd, I know that you're very, very proud of what you do every day, and I guess you've been doing it for over 30 years now. And one of your bio facts, I think 2,000 salespeople you hired in 1 year.
Yeah, we did. We did, actually.
Tell us a little bit about your experiences and what got you here today.
Well, I started off with John Hancock in 1977 in Alton, Illinois. Nobody knows where Alton, Illinois is. It's across the bridge from St. Louis. And so I've been in sales for most of my life. Over the years, people have asked me if I have some of my training material on first it was VHS or cassette tape, then it was CDs, then it was DVDs.
I've got some of your first stuff. It's on stone tablets.
It is on stone tablets. I still have the chisels, as a matter of fact.
There's only 7 there. Did you want to add the other 3 while I'm here today as a signature autograph?
There you go.
Well, yours was on smoke signals, what I heard, or whatever.
No, stone tablets.
Hey, now Mike's wife won't appreciate that. That's for sure. Yeah. So I started back in 2010 when the Affordable Care Act came out. I run a marketing company here in Atlanta. We do insurance and credit card processing. But when the Affordable Care Act came out, we wanted to look at some non-insurance related products. So we started looking at credit card processing, and I went out on the streets, business to business, door to door, to sell credit card processing, and I failed miserably. I couldn't get in. For 6 months, I went to business, and I couldn't get anybody to buy anything from me. And that was really an ego buster because I've been in sales for years, and I didn't understand what I was doing wrong. And it occurred to me that manipulation is influencing others to do something that's of interest to you, and persuasion is influencing others to do something that's of interest to them. So I went back to the basics that I learned from Combined Insurance Company, and I realized that people like 2 things. They like to hear their name, and they like to have their opinion asked. So within a month, I got the first sale, and then that business kind of took off. So 2 years ago, I had a heart attack. I was in Iowa visiting my kids, and I ended up having a pacemaker put in. Ooh. I've been talking for several years about backing out of the business, letting my partner take over, and I wanted to get in the speaking business or the training business, and I just wasn't really confident enough to do that. So when I had that heart attack, my wife said...
Now's the time to change.
Yeah, I'm really sick of your crap. So you need to do something. So I decided, all these years people have asked me for my training material. I put it online to a membership website, 7-Figure Sales Tools, and we've done pretty well with it. We've grown quite a bit. So I work with small business owners. I work with corporations. I work with individual salespeople. The membership site, people can go on and join as a monthly membership. Corporations hire me as a consultant to go in. I was just in Indiana a couple of weeks ago working with a company with their call center. So sales training, ironically, sales training has very little to do with the product or service. Most people aren't the least bit interested in your product or service. They're interested in the problems that they have.
That's right. How you can best and most simply. So all sales training is created almost equal. It's just you focus it in different directions. How do you do that? You mentioned call centers. You've mentioned door to door. Where are some of the neat things that you've seen evolve over the last few years since you've been focused on teaching?
Well, I think one of the things that's interesting in today's marketplace is you hear a lot of experts out there now. With the internet, with Lead Pages and some other vendor services out there, everybody's become an expert. So you can get anybody to give you a class on how to be a speaker, how to run some kind of online business, how to do IT, like our friend sitting here who's an expert at that. And the truth is, selling is still selling. So social media becomes a big part of how people attract customers. But really, social media is about connections. And selling was always about connections. It was always about connecting with people Zig Ziglar said it years ago. If I can get you to feel the way I feel about my product or service, there's a good chance that you'll talk to me. I think the biggest mistake most salespeople make, and this transfers over into businesses, the biggest mistake most salespeople make is they're looking for a customer. They're looking for someone to buy from them. And the reason that's a big mistake is because that means if you're looking for a buyer, then you're ruling out people that might be willing to have a conversation with you.
Correct. No, you're ruling out tomorrow's customers, and many people just miss so much on the ground. So in terms of putting this together for a subscription, in terms of small companies, big companies, where are you focused on in a national market? I mean, you mentioned you're doing some speaking and touring now. That's a whole lot more fun than sitting behind your desk, I'm sure.
Well, you could always, if you signed up, if you were a broker-dealer or if you were a company, for example, I've worked with Mr. Transmission and Petland and places like that. If you signed up with our service, you got me. So I would come out and speak at your national sales convention. I do workshops or seminars for you. I do webinars for you. So that was always in the cards. That's why I've been doing training for 20 years. The difference now is that you don't have to sign up for any of the product or services. I can just come in and help you either increase your activity, get more presentations, close more sales, or get more referrals, increase floor traffic, do the things that generate the activity that gets you the revenue.
How about right now? You might even be popular in the car industry. Maybe. Have you ever worked with the car industry to make more direct sales on the floor?
You know, what's funny is actually car sales is a great illustration of predictable buying behavior. So everybody in the room, you've all bought a car from a dealership, right, at some point or another? Now, when you pull into that dealership's lot and you get out of your car and the car salesman comes up to you, says, "Can I help you?" What do you say to him? "I'm just
browsing.
Just browsing, just looking." So you lied too, right?
Browse. Browse.
Because
man.
2 hours...
He walked right into that one, yeah.
2 hours later, you drive off the lot with a new car, spending more money than you thought you were going to spend.
Right.
Now, here's the other irony of how buying a car is equivalent to learning how to sell. So before you bought that car, before you went in to talk to the salesman about the car, did you test drive the car?
More than likely. Now he's a little hesitant to answer, yeah.
Then want to get caught again.
Yeah.
So when you test drive the car, you get behind the steering wheel before you leave the dealer's lot. Car salesman sitting in the car with you. Do you adjust anything in the car?
You adjust the mirrors, those types of things to make it more comfortable for you.
Okay, so you're adjusting those things to make it fit you.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the irony of it. How do you help your prospect adjust your product or service to fit them? I would submit this to you. You adjust the things in the car that you use the most in the order you use those things. Some people will adjust the seat, the tilt steering, and the radio. Others will adjust the side view mirror, the air conditioning. So you adjust the things you use the most in the order you use those things.
Tailor it to fit. That's the whole process.
So that's the real question, is if you can learn how to help your prospect adjust your product or service to fit them, then you don't have to sell anybody. You just have to have a relationship with them. Now, here's the irony. You get done, you go out and test drive the car, which is kind of an ironic term, because what do you actually test? I mean, does anybody pull the car over, take the wheel off, and check the anti-lock brakes? Does anybody take the manifold off and check if the pistons are working right? What you're really testing is the feel of the car. You're testing to see if it fits you, right?
You drive by that big old mirror and say, "Does this look good on me? Do I look fat in this?"
Now you get back to the dealership. Now, where does the car salesman have you park your car? Right next to yours, right? So you can see what a piece of crap you're driving. And then where do you go? Where do you go with the car salesman?
Back inside to meet the salesman.
You go in the dealership, right? Now, here's my question for you. Are you going in there to discuss which car you're buying? Or are you going to discuss how much you're paying for that car?
Whichever he asks the question next.
Probably the second.
How much you're paying for that car.
Right.
And why is that? I would submit that you're doing that because you've already taken emotional ownership over that car. You already feel like that car is your car. You're just deciding how much you pay for it.
That's right.
So if you can help people adjust your product or service to fit them, then your price isn't a question. It's just a validation of the service you've already provided. So the irony about your question is buying cars, as opposed to selling cars, buying cars is a great illustration of people's predictable buying behaviors and lays out the format for how most people should sell. And that includes social media. If you run Facebook ads, one of the requirements in Facebook ads is that you have pictures. But you can't have pictures more than 20% text in the picture, or they won't approve the ad. They want pictures because people engage with the pictures. Manipulation is influencing people to do what's of interest to you.
That's right.
Persuasion is influencing people to do what's of interest to them.
Well, we certainly now know a lot more about seven-figure sales, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
That's it. Well, Lloyd, we appreciate that. We're going to swing back over to Matthew in just a second, but remember, we're here today because the Buckhead Business Association helps co-sponsor this show, and it's brought to you by the Buckhead Business Association, who's been around since 1951. So how many years is that, Rich?
65 and counting, yeah.
And counting. We're in the 65th year of serving the businesses here in this little community we call Buckhead, and we do it with a monthly social on typically the third Thursday of the month, but we also do it with a Thursday morning bright and early at the City Club of Buckhead with that billion-dollar view they have down there, and we can see it from our window. We have great speaker, we have great fellowship, we have a great networking time. And like I said, Lloyd, later on we're going to talk about networking, and Matthew participates in a lot of events around the city, so we're going to focus back on that. But let's talk about that thing which is really painting all of us now. Has anybody looked at a screen lately? Did you spend most of your waking hours this morning already looking at your screen? Not the windscreen of your car, but the screen of your computer. So you think something's wrong with your screen? Maybe it is. So let's talk to Matthew. Tell us a little bit about your business, how you got here, and what's exciting about IT for you. Don't bore us now. Tell us what's exciting. Okay?
I will not bore you. So I always like to introduce the person. So I'm going to introduce myself. Matthew Nickerson. I represent a company named Team Logic IT. I come from a background of engineering parents, as well as a brother who was in computer science. He now works at Google. And growing up in that, I really got interested in the technology and how it's affecting the future and seeing how it affects businesses. Graduating from college, I went into consulting and got into ERP, dealing with Oracle, working in India as well as Canada. And I got to see the global aspect of how IT has changed the game of business on a global scale, as well as a small business scale. And what that did for me is when I came back and I transitioned more from a consulting into a sales role now, I'm really focused on business owners and helping people. And I love to hear stories of how they're handling their business and how they're taking it to the next step. So love sitting down with lawyers, CPAs, doctors, any small business that needs that help but just doesn't have that IT person. That's what we come and do at Team Logic IT. Our business is out of Norcross, although we do serve a lot of the people in Buckhead as well as the Atlanta metro area. I'm actually a resident of here. I live off Howell Mill, so this is very, very close to me.
Now that's
a little drive.
That's Buck Edge, isn't it?
That's Buck Edge. That's Midtown. But going into it, I really love going out to businesses. We have a lot of people that are in finances, have a lot of very secure information. So one of the things that I really like about what we do is being able to help somebody at a competitive price and them be able to say, you know what, I like the fact that you're helping the small business, because rather than go and pay a consulting company, hundreds and thousands of dollars, a law firm that has maybe 20 people doesn't want to have to spend an absorbent amount of money to acquire those things. So we like to help the little guys, the guys that are growing, and some big ones as well.
So in your service-related process, you go out and find somebody who's got more trouble than they need to have in their computer area, whether or not they have the right staff or the right technical expertise. I know Microsoft is probably a pretty big partner of yours, and of course server systems and clouds and all that stuff. So talk about where you like to focus, where you're seeing the most results. Where's the marketplace going today for small business owners? Yeah,
what I'm noticing is an interesting story. I was around Sandy Springs the other day at a major real estate. They're dealing with online marketing and those types of things for real estate agents. They already have an IT director. So one of the things that we're doing that's different is we're helping augment their support. So the things that he might not be able to handle is things that we can come in and take care of, whether it be a support role. So the interesting thing is with the small business, it really varies. What I'm seeing trend-wise is managed services, which is really what our business's focuses on. The acronym that's being thrown in the world is MSP. So where you're seeing this a lot more, it's because businesses are looking at costs now. And when they look at their costs and they say, I got this IT director, I'm paying this much overhead, insurance, those types of things, companies are really looking at what they can do differently to outsource. And most of the things that we're dealing with now are dealing with security as well as managed services. Because information, there's been a lot of hacking going on in the world. Everybody knows about Russia and China and what's been happening on that end. So I have a lot of businesses that call me and that I call upon, and they say, you know what, I haven't really thought about my security as much as I should, and I'd like to figure out a little bit more about what you guys can do to help keep our information secure.
Well, now I'm going to ask you that acronym question. You mentioned the word MSP being the acronym being thrown around. I've got the managed services. What does the P really stand for now?
The P is just provider.
Provider.
So we're
okay.
managed service providers.
All right. I was hoping it was program or provider, but does everybody need a managed service program in their company? So it's kind of like an operations order to figure out how to do business. You mentioned security being a very important element. Talk about how people are really quantifying that with the cloud and with your services and the dangers of small business.
Sure. So we had, going back to this, we had a CPA firm contact us recently, and one of the issues is that they're having is that they had an internet company come out and talk to them and install their internet, but they didn't really have anything that was secured. They didn't have anybody monitoring their systems.
Like a screen door.
Which is what we do.
They put a screen door in their company.
Definitely need a screen door. The average lawsuit on information that is breached right now is sitting at about an average of $500,000.
Wow.
So you think about a small CPA firm who information gets breached. They've got a litigation on them now that's $500,000 and more. There's a lot of companies now that are looking into IT insurance because there's so much important information. You think about a company's financials. That a big part of what we do with the monitoring and the managing of services is they're small enough to where they need their services managed and monitored, and they need technicians to come out and be able to help their business in case something goes down. In case packets are going out of information that might be very, very secure information that they would not like in the public, and basically we help them with that. So the big buzzword with MSP is due to a lot of companies that are saying, you know what, we don't have 200 employees, but we have 18. And there's a lot of very important information. Sure. So that's a real sweet spot.
So in your marketing, how large is your company today?
Our company right now is a franchise business. There's over 103 locations across the United States. Great. That will be 116 by the end of the year.
Well, congratulations being a part of a very well. We talked about operational procedures. I know you folks do a lot of help getting each other squared away. And, of course, you get to share customers across markets, which is very exciting for you. In terms of you're a young guy, how did you select this IT arena to be a sales guy? Sales is a pretty important day for Lloyd's benefit and all of our benefits. How do people make transitions between consulting and training?
Sales is, I always tell people there are certain people that are cut out to be salespeople. My brother's a developer, not a good salesperson. And when I was in consulting, I noticed that a lot of the roles that I was involved in were things like project management, change management, business process design, training. And I realized that the one commonality was I loved speaking to executive levels. I loved speaking to owners. I loved speaking to those that need the IT put in layman's terms. And I think graduating college with a marketing background, I always was interested in things like consumer behavior, why people are buying things, leadership, how to help somebody, really achieve their goals. The interesting part is kind of what Lloyd was talking about is sometimes the leadership is in you, and to speak to customers and to really help somebody out, kind of like him going and consulting in Indiana. The greatest thing that we get from this is really helping the customer. He was talking about solutions, and what I really like is that it's really the business side of IT, being able to speak to the customer, but also saying, you know what, at the end of the day, I helped this guy out.
Right.
I really did something for him that changed his business.
It's like that Appalachian backpacking story. Make the trail better when you leave it than it was when you started down it.
Sure.
What I think is interesting about what you said is one of the comments you made is the security issue for your customers effect on their customers.
Oh, yeah.
But you have part of your degrees in marketing, right?
Yes.
So I think when I hear you say that, I think that if I was consulting with you or coaching with you, I would put together a marketing message for your customers to their customers. Because the marketing message may not be that we can help you with security for your CPA firm, but we can help you build your credibility with your customers by telling your customers how their information would be more secure with your firm, as well as being accurate, because that would be an important message that they could give out to their customers. So your business isn't necessarily just getting, for example, the CPA to come on board, but showing the CPA how they can use the message of what you do to build their own customer base.
And to go off that, if you're dealing with a law firm, most law firms are going to have some accounting going on. So, whether it's lawyers that have contracts that are very, very important, you're talking about millions of dollars of money being transacted. They're also going to use those accounting firms and CPAs to handle their business. So there's a big cross between businesses and who we like to help. And that becomes prevalent when we call on clients.
Well, it becomes a trickle down. You service a customer who services customers, and you benefit the small business marketplace, which serves the consumers, ultimately the people who make the paycheck,
Sure,
who pay the retail prices or do what they do. Well, it's exciting. We're going to talk now a little bit about how you acquire customers. Remember, the Buckhead Business Association is a neighborhood networking organization per se. We provide programs and education, and we provide a place for folks to gather. Now, early on, Matthew, you mentioned you participate in some chamber events and some networking events. I know Lloyd does as well. We're going to circle back there. But tell us, what's the fun part of you getting out after hours or during the hours to visit with new customers? And what are you looking for with new customers?
What's the fun part? The fun part about being around people and networking is really hearing their stories. That's what really interests me. Beyond business and what we do every day that we wake up, whether we're selling or we're developing a program, everybody has a story behind themselves. And I find that fascinating that when you're in these networking events, I've been going to a lot of these Joel's List events and Chamber of Commerce, been traveling around, and even coming to the Buckhead Business Association. You see a lot of distinguished people. You see a lot of different stories that people come from, and I like to learn about that because it kind of shapes yourself. You learn through experiences of others. I think with networking and sales, one of the biggest things is being able to really have one-on-ones and be personable. And what I've learned is that, if somebody really likes you and they figure that you are who you say you are, I find that a lot of people are willing to share contacts and those types of things. And I try to be a genuine person, and I feel like when you do that, it comes across to clients, potential clients, and just people in general, making connections, meeting with real estate agents and connecting them with somebody that helps them out. That makes me happy. Wow. Beyond everything that I do. One
of those sayings, a true indication of a good relationship is when you can absolutely do nothing for the other person, but yet you take time and invest in them.
Sure.
That's a good.
And it comes back.
And what do you do in the nonprofit arena? Where are you involved in the city, other than Chambers of Commerce?
Nonprofit, I would have to say I wouldn't call this a nonprofit, but I'm part of Toastmasters, so I enjoy the public speaking aspect. I do that. I'm involved with a group called Lift Up Atlanta.
Great.
I met them, and we basically give back to those in need. Try to just stay involved. I notice that people that get involved with organizations, whether it be the Buckhead Business Association all the way to the Red Cross, there's an element of being involved in life and being a leader. And part of being a leader is somebody who takes the time out of their busy schedule to make something. Right. I find that.
Well, you've been tagged now. When they say when you want something done, give it to a busy person. You sound like a very busy person. So
yes, sir.
Let's turn back over to Lloyd for just a minute. I know, Lloyd, you're involved when he talked about Toastmasters and speaking. I know that you're involved with the National Speakers Association here in Georgia. And I understand that you're doing some fun stuff on Fridays. So tell us about the First Fridays.
Well, the first thing I would say about the National Speakers Association is when my friend here comes to the First Friday event and one of our monthly programs, he'll find that there's a different spin than just Toastmasters. Was that a good hook?
That was good.
Is that a good
was
hook?
good.
Right.
He sold it to me.
All right, there you go. Yeah, I've been hanging around the National Speakers Association a couple of years. I joined it last December. I've been going to what's called a First Friday. That's a meeting that's held once a month. Most of the people that come there are not members of the National Speakers Association, but they're kind of testing the waters out to see if it's a good fit for them. When I joined the National Speakers Association, they were missing someone to run that First Friday, and I volunteered to take it over. I did it for a purely selfish reason. I thought it was cheaper than hiring someone to teach me how to build a speaking business because I would actually be around professionals that are doing it. And the irony of it is a lot of the professionals are now coming to the First Friday meeting all the time. So it's been very worthwhile for me. I like it a lot.
Well, I think you built a tribe there. I understand there's very good ratings coming out of that session, and you're growing. And that's actually, and maybe Matthew will be one of your next participants. I know I've talked to Rich about attending some events, and it's certainly a place to enhance not only your skills, but also enhance your availability to speak. And more people need to be presenting more information, which, Lloyd, your training is certainly very exciting to people who are trying to grow a business. And Matthew, I think you said everybody's not a salesperson.
Not everybody is a salesperson.
But many people can be trained to do a little better at learning and listening to, as well as supporting sales folks. And
sure.
Well, when I consult with businesses about recruiting, most businesses, and this is one of the projects I was doing in Indiana a couple of weeks ago, most businesses look to hire salespeople based on their ability. And the reason for that is they think that if they get someone with the ability to sell, that person will get results. Mm-hmm. But frequently what happens is, they hire the 6-foot tall guy with a washboard stomach, with a, fitted suit.
Square shoulders and red tie.
Yeah, he's swabbing the boner. And then he becomes the 90-day wonder. After 90 days, I wonder what happened to him. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is because that person is not always willing to do the activity necessary to succeed.
Right.
So the 1 year that we hired 2,000 salespeople in 1 year, we did it in 65 offices across the country. And that's because what I did is I brought the managers in and I trained them to recruit people that were willing to do the activity necessary to get results. We can train the ability, but if they're not willing to make a phone call, if they can't get in the door, if they can't make an appointment, if they're not willing to ask questions to uncover the needs someone has and then design a solution, they will probably never talk about the product or service.
Very good. Well, Matthew, you've been a great guest today. Let's give us your good information, your name, your good email, and your website and so forth for all the audience to get in touch with you.
All right. And thank you guys so much. Really appreciate the time. I can be reached at 770-847-9611, and my extension is 1006. You can email me at M as in Matthew, Nickerson, Nickerson, at teamlogicit.com, or you can visit the website. It's very nice. So thank you.
I think I saw some Toastmaster skills there.
Giddy up.
All right. Now, Lloyd, and you could give us your information for the listeners out there so they can get in touch with you.
You can go to our website, sevenfiguresalestools.com. You can call me at 678-426-1506. You can email me at Lloyd, Lloyd, at lloydlofton.com.
Great. Well, guys, it's been a pleasure to be with you today. And on behalf of the Buckhead Business Association, I want to extend you an opportunity to come visit us Thursday morning at 7:15 at the City Club of Buckhead, and just give me a call. We'll get you plugged in there. Rich, it's been good to be with you today here at the $1 Billion View overlooking Buckhead, getting ready for your podcasters show later today. And I guess we're done.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us and our guests on the Pro Business Channel. Use the social media links here to share today's show and stay